All right. July 25th, Saturday morning, about 7:15 Central. Leaving the hotel. I'm going to go drive over to the world's largest quilting needle. Why? I don't know. Why not? Just because I want to at least do something. So I don't really have time to drive around. I'm in Paducah, Kentucky. And I'm heading to Nashville. I did switch out the cord for the camera. After I go to the quilting needle, I need to get some coffee. Did look it up. The population of Paducah, Kentucky is about 25,000, but in the greater metro area, it's about 100. I don't know how much that metro area covers. Maybe it's the county or something. I don't know. It's a little rainy overnight this morning. It's not raining right now. Everything's just a little wet. Went to bed early because I was tired and there was nothing I really wanted to watch on YouTube, so I went to bed. I need to get some gas before I leave, too. And coffee. That's where the Starbucks is. I know. Some people think Starbucks sucks. I like it. Burnt, dark, tastes like coffee. I don't get sugar bombs, just coffee and a little bit of half and half. There's also a National Quilt Museum here in Paducah. I remember listening to a podcast about some guy that got into quilting and he bought up like the whole area and all the businesses or something. But not in a, like a dickish private equity way, but creating like a whole ecosystem. Something like that. Didn't stay anywhere fancy. It was just a Hampton Inn. I did look at the Holiday Inn Express that's out there on the water on the Ohio River. I think that's the Ohio River. But I was a little outside my corporate budget allows. I don't need gas right now. I got a half tank. I can get it on the way back and then go get some coffee and then get on the road. Wonder if I'll be able to park in front of it where you can see it from the live view while I jump out and go take a picture of it. Doing the speed limit and everybody wants to go around me. Whatever. Don't care. Convention Center, National Quilt Museum, Historic Downtown and Riverfront. I'll stop at the light. Let me drive around that a little bit. It's a quarter mile to wherever this quilting needle is. It's going to be up on my right. There it is. Kind of hard for you to see. I'm going to turn around and go aim the car from the other side so you can see it. Looks like there's a parking lot over there. Or I'll just park on the street. I like that idea. Yeah, let's park on the street. Or not in the street, but this little parking area. There's nobody here. I can just park kind of cockeyed in the handicap spots. So right there, right in front of you, is the world's largest quilting needle. I'm gonna clip the microphone to my goat. Roll the window down so I have reception. And let's go take a picture. And I'm curious if you'll still be able to hear me. I wonder if you can still hear me on this microphone. That's kind of cool. And since I've started early, I'll still have time to get to my destination. Let's go drive around the waterfront area, the historic waterfront area. Temperature's nice right now. Overcast. And it's 72 degrees. A little humid, but not bad. The low temperature feels good. The Holiday Inn Express is right there. Yeah, big whoop-de-doo. Would have been kind of cool to have a river view, but yeah, whatever. You stare at it out at your window for an hour or so, and then all you do is sleep. Now, it'd been maybe kind of cool. Could, after getting everything in your hotel room, go out and go for a walk on the river. But I don't know if there was any walking areas, park areas, or anything. But we are just gonna go drive around and take a quick look. Yeah, it's right there. So we'll drive down this way to where it comes back to the business turnoff for I-24, and then we'll turn back around, head back to Starbucks, and get some gas. street I just passed probably would have been kind of cool to go down. I think I might try to go back that way. We're going to go this way. We're going to go up one more street so that I can go over two and then drive down. That kind of looked like a squirrel. Wonder how old these buildings are. Does he stop? He does stop. Yeah, this is Broadway. I don't think they had any Broadway shows. Bunch of historic landmarker signs. Yeah. Satellite or cloud cover is killing my connection here. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's kind of cool. That's the Ohio River there. I think I can go park the car for a second and go walk out there. Boy. Well, I haven't lost any connection yet. Alright, I'm not going to take the camera or the mic with me. I'll be back. All right, I'm back. I wonder if the stream's actually still working. Yeah, it says I'm still live. Okay, cool. Awesome sauce. All right, gasoline and caffeine. I don't know how I feel about those trailers, security camera, police camera things. Like, on one hand, I like them, but on the other hand, I don't. I'm gonna go this way. That's a one-way. Pay attention. Here comes our run club. Yeah, it didn't have me go this way. It gave us an alternate. I think it's a little slower, but only by like a minute. It's just because of all the stop signs and whatnot. Oh, that's a cool old building over there. Can't see it from the camera, but whatever. It's cool. First Presbyterian Church. It's got a historic sign out of it, so that must be its original. You know, one of those landmark signs. we'll see how that other cable actually works. Turn right at the stop sign on North 21st Street. It's a nice area right through here. That's not a stop sign. Stop sign's up there. Got a little bit of sprinkles. Who is the largest employer in Paducah, Kentucky?
Checking now. If you mean the city proper, the two biggest employers now are Baptist Health Paducah and Mercy Health Lourdes, each employing well over 1,000 people.
So healthcare is the biggest, basically.
Yeah.
What about what's next after healthcare? Who's next employer-wise, like manufacturing?
Care, major sectors in nuclear cleanup work, marine transportation and barge manufacturing, education, retail, and some financial services.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What's the median income for Paducah and the area?
One sec. If you're looking at the latest census estimates, Paducah City is about $61,000 a year median household income, and McCracken County is around $64,000. Cost of living is lower than many metros, so that can go a bit further.
What is the population of the county McCracken that Paducah is in?
Checking. McCracken County is about 67,900 people.
So it's kind of on the small side.
Yeah. It's a smaller county, but Paducah acts like a regional hub, so it serves a bigger area than just the city limits.
Is Paducah a tourist destination?
Checking. Yeah, kind of niche more than mass tourism. It's known for the arts and crafts scene with the Quilt Museum and events like Quilt Week and a cute historic riverfront. But it mostly benefits from being a regional hub. People come for healthcare, shopping, dining, that sort of thing.
Cool. See ya.
See ya.
All right, let's get some gas. Okay, come on, stupid thing. This pump doesn't want me to use contactless. All right, come on. Come on. Well, if you get gasoline at Rhodes Gasoline, you can scratch and win between May 22nd and August 30th to win one of 4 golf carts or a Rhodes gift card valued up to $1,000 or free food. Scan this QR code to sign up for 75-cent drink texts. Yeah, no. Oh. Oh, that was kind of cool. It actually stopped right on 29, even though I didn't want it. 7.5 gallons. Well, I didn't try to stop it. But let's put a little extra in. Top it off, because then I think I can make this drive all in one shot. Oh, need the receipt. Oh, you stupid thing. See cashier for receipt. Screw that. I'm just going to grab the phone, take a picture of it. Okay, back in the car. Yeah. I know. I need to put my seatbelt on. Stop dinging at me. Let's check out of the hotel. Lepa jewelry, not an accessory. It's an alignment. Okay, fine. Technically, I'm going to be going Interstate 24 East to Nashville, but I'm not getting on there yet because I need caffeine. I mean, I already had some caffeine, but that was just cheap coffee shop coffee. Or cheap hotel coffee. I don't like that stuff. It's enough to wake up with, but I know some people think Starbucks is crap, but I think I'm just used to the flavor. If you call that a flavor. And as soon as I get on the road, I think I might have to put a song on, even though I'll probably get some monetization notice or some crap like that. I know the first times when I was testing the streaming, when I was using the multiple cell phones, I got some email notification. It wasn't a strike, it was just your video can't be monetized in certain countries or some crap like that. That's fine, whatever. I'm not monetized anyways. Big whoopity-doo. No, I'm not going to go through the drive-thru, mainly because I want to get the coffee and then put some half and half in it and then put it in my coffee cup. All right, be right back. Let's go. Two hours, 18 minutes. Which means I'm still going to get there roughly when I told the guy I'd get there. I like it. Exit around Taco Bell. On the road. Low tire pressure. Guess I'm not listening to a song yet. I think I'm going to be getting off at this rest area here. I do have an air compressor on me, so that's good. Well, shit. Am I going to be changing a spare tire here on the side at a rest area? Or maybe. Doesn't feel like it's riding weird. Rest area straight ahead. feel like last time when I got a flat tire. Yeah, I got over here. No, I'm not sitting by the trucks. All right, let's get out and go take a look. Huh? Nothing's flat, which is good. So we're just going to move some shit around and put some air in the tires. How much do these get? I can't read it. Well, I'm going to do 50. All right. Driver's side or passenger side rear is done. It was at 35, which is a little low. Passenger side was the same, or passenger front was the same. It's nice when you're traveling with a van full of tools. Got a nice Milwaukee air pump. The driver's front was 37. Yeah, not that low, like out of the ordinary. Well, they're low, but it's not like one was significantly lower. This might slow me down 15 minutes, no big deal. All right, let's see. Is the warning light gone? Yep, warning light's gone. We good. Let's get rolling. No right turn, no left turn. Oh, the left turn's probably from the other side. Yeah, coming from over there. So we're gonna go this way. It's actually a historic house right there. Kind of cool. All right, back on the freeway. Call and say hi to the wife. Very rainy, huh? Like just cool. Right on. I actually got up a little early just so I could drive around the area real quick. Took a picture of the world's largest quilting needle, and then walked out to the riverfront and took a picture, and then got on the road, and then the car said ding ding ding, low air pressure. I'm like, oh shit. So I pulled right into a rest area, and I looked, I'm like, everything looks fine. So I just put air in the tires, and so I think it's just from driving so much. Yeah, they're all the same level. They're all just a little on the low side. So I'm like, all right, that's easy to fix. Yeah, so I'm driving, and I'll get to my location about 10:30, and then the acquaintance from SMMOC, I'll go see him. I'm still probably going to Virginia, go to look at those cars, but I also don't know if it's going to be possible because they're outside, and if it's raining, it's going to be kind of pointless. Okay. Yeah, So I'll look it up, see what it is. But cool. Right on. Alrighty, I'm on the road. I'll holler at you in Nashville, I guess. Cool. Right on. Have a good morning. Bye. My phone says the speed limit is 55. But that doesn't seem right. Except for the one guy just passed. Alright, time for a song.
I was thumbing from Montgomery. I had my guitar on my back. When a stranger stopped beside me in an antique Cadillac. He was dressed like 1950s, half drunk and hollow-eyed. He said, "It's a long walk to Nashville. Would you like to ride, son?" Down in the front seat, he turned on the radio, and them sad old songs coming out of them speakers was solid country gold. Then I noticed the stranger was ghost white pale when he asked me for a light, and I knew there was something strange about this ride. He said, "Mister, can you make folks cry when you play and sing? Have you paid your dues? Can you moan the blues? Can you bend them guitar strings?" He said, "Boy, can you make folks feel what you feel inside? 'Cause if you're big star bound, let me warn you, it's a long, hard ride." Then he cried just south of Nashville, and he turned that car around. He said, "This is where you get off, boy, 'cause I'm going back to Alabama." As I stepped out of that Cadillac, I said, "Mister, many thanks." He said, "You don't have to call me Mister. The whole world called me Hank." He said, "Mister, can you make folks cry when you play and sing? Have you paid your dues? Can you moan the blues? Can you bend down guitar strings?" I said, "Lord, can you make folks feel what you feel inside? 'Cause if you're big star bound, let me warn you, it's a long, hard ride." He said, "Mister, can you make folks cry when you play and sing? Have you paid your dues? Can you moan the blues? Can you bend down guitar strings?" He says, "Lord, can you make folks feel what you feel inside? But if you're big star bound, let me warn you, it's a long, hard ride. If you're big star bound, let me warn you, it's a long, hard ride." You know, you got a lot of competition out there now, son. It ain't like it was in the 50s when I was here. I mean, you got Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, Guy Clark, Billy Joe Schaefer, David Allen Cole, and you even got my son.
It's bright coming through those clouds. That was Great White, Rock Me. Awesome song. It's only speed limit when flashing. What river am I crossing again? It's the Tennessee River. Which I just saw when I was in Paducah. Which I don't really know. Is it splitting off from the Ohio and flowing that way? Or is it flowing the other way and is joining the Ohio River? the road's been smoother since I left this morning, so I don't know if the cable has solved the problem or if it's just because the roads are smoother. Badgett Playhouse Theater. Okay. Alright, I'll listen to the rest of the podcast I was listening to on my walk last night. Yes, I did just walk around the parking lot for the hotel. Grabbed out the kettlebells.
This data comes from reports in places like The Information or other sources or leak numbers, and they try to just make charts based on it.
Yeah, and by the way, I have my own sources too. I've talked to investors in these companies, and I'm just telling you that both Anthropic and OpenAI are taking their estimates up right now. Their forecasts up. So, I mean, look, I think in the future, it may be the case that open source takes share. Fine, it's because the market's so big. And there is always a market for open because open is more controllable, it's more customizable. You can own it, you get the data sovereignty. You get the sovereignty, but it's also more work. So there are different use cases, there's different parts of the market.
That's actually very interesting. The more work part there, Sachs, is super interesting. Like 3 to 6 months ago, it was so much work to stand these up. And now there's so many intermediaries building the harnesses that default to it that is getting worked out. But that has always been the issue with open source for sure, is the amount of work it takes to implement. If you do want to implement this inside of your organization, please make a call to 8090 and try the Software Factory. Use the promo code JCAP to get a free consultation at 8090. All right. Can they get a free consultation?
Man, everyone's talking their books. Everyone's talking their books. Actually, including, I'd say, the Anthropic and OpenAI investors. It's amazing how many of these
Brad
investors...
was on the show 2 weeks ago when you on the episode. Brad was like, let me tell you why this is going to... He's holding on. He's holding on to
No,
the
I actually think Brad...
He's like, oh...
I actually give Brad a lot of credit because I do think that he's objective about public policy, or as objective as you can be, given that he does own all these companies. But look, let me just tell you that, I see a lot of folks who are suddenly China hawks and saying, we need to stop China, we need to stop...
Oh, yeah, now they're China hawks. Everybody wanted to sell their chips there.
How about disclosing first whether you're on the cap table of Anthropic, okay?
Absolutely.
Are you guys on any of these cap tables?
No, I'm not.
Not directly.
No, not directly. Yeah,
Indirectly, yes.
Indirectly, maybe got a little access. You know what it's like, Chamath? It's like when you got that great flush or straight, and you're like, please don't
Cumberland
pair
River.
the board. Brad's like, don't pair the board. Please don't pair the board. All right, here we go.
I love open source. I love this open source AI
I
stuff.
love it.
I think it's so awesome. The value,
So punk rock.
It's just like there's so much to be done with it. It's just
Let's go.
exciting and awesome. And yeah, Chamath's point is exactly right. Most of the models can do 95% of the tasks. And if that's the case, then it's not like everyone needs to scramble to get the best open source model. You just need open source to do 95% of what you want to do with AI. And then the other 5% you get specialized or high value or you pay a premium. And by the way, if you're a big enterprise and you need to have wrappers and support and all these other tools for your employees, buy Anthropic or OpenAI or Grok Schools or Gemini. Like, just make sure you have options.
Make sure you have a good partner. Use the promo code JCAL. You get a Zoom call with Chamath. Okay.
Get a Zoom call with Chamath.
You guys have a Zoom call with Chamath and take a selfie with him on Zoom. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if anyone's going to sign a $10 million contract with 8090, you get to have 3 of the 4 of us for a 5-minute Zoom call.
Absolutely. You get to come
We're all going to show
Anybody
up
that's
for the
10
Zoom
million,
call.
you get to guest host on the pod.
And anyone ready to make a pre-purchase on $1 million of potato seed, you also get to have.
Yes, use the promo code SAXYPOO.
Oh,
yes, and if you'd like to guest host, the first person to put a $25 million check to Launch Fund 5 gets to guest moderate an episode with your boy J-Cal. All right, promo city this week. All right, Anthropic copyrights. Here we go. Anthropic has settled their AI copyright lawsuit for $1.5 billion. On Monday, largest copyright settlement, Friedberg, in the history of the United States of America. First major AI trading lawsuit to settle. There are many more in the pipeline. Anthropic downloaded 7 million books from pirated websites to train Claude, and that alone, it may or may not be a crime. This has been adjudicated a little bit in the courts. They had ruled previously that AI on copyrighted books is legal under fair use, but there's going to be some future cases. So this is a settlement. They didn't go to the bat. Lawyers get the 101 million, authors get 3,000 a book. 500,000 books were covered in it thus far. 91% of the covered authors have claimed their share. Tons of other ones are on the way. And here's your second victory fact of the episode. Content providers, as a group, need to get together and fight for their rights in unison. New York Times,
Fight for the
Metacritic.
right to party?
No, fight for the right to get paid and to survive. Ultimately, you want to go to ChatGPT and say, as a group, either give us these terms or don't index us. They are interfering with their ability to leverage their own content. It's profoundly unfair, and those
You're gonna get
magazines and
steamrolled, is my
newspapers
prediction,
need
Jake
to. What's that?
You're going to get steamrolled.
It's possible. YouTube is a great example. That's what's going to happen here. There'll be a settlement where they are going to be able to claim their
I will bet
content.
anything. I will bet any amount
Let's go
against
bet.
your
Let's get it
against
back
your premonition here, JKL. This is like
Okay,
the
let's make a
opposite
bet.
of
Propose a
Nostradamus.
bet.
I am going to go for my biggest winner.
Now
is
it's 2024.
for training data owners like the New York Times, Reddit, X, Twitter, YouTube, etc. I think what we learned in 2023 was that the language models are starting to hit parity very quickly, and that the real value is going to be in, and it may even become commodities, and open source may win the day. So then I think the winner is folks who have the training data.
You know, the
Oh
best
my
thing
God.
about this is
Oh
watching
God.
Jason's reaction to Jason.
I
Where
just
he's
love
sitting
it. Did you do a picture of me just be like, ooh, go Jacob. Freeberg, did we make a bet here? Did we make a bet? I don't know. It's gone.
Well, actually, this settlement, I don't think quite proves exactly what you wanted to prove, JKL.
Good.
Explain. Can I make it nuanced here? Okay.
Of course.
So, okay, look, and obviously, I'm not a huge fan of Anthropic because I think they're potentially destroying the whole ecosystem for their own purposes of regulatory capture. But let's just be very clear about what. Let's just be very
Come on
clear
the show
about.
anytime, Daria.
Yeah, let's just be very clear about what this judgment was and was not. So, what Anthropic did is they pirated all these books from LibGen and they trained on them. And the reason why they got in trouble is because they basically took stolen books. They didn't even pay for one copy of them. But if they had paid for just one copy of each book, they could not have been nailed for piracy. They would have been potentially under fair use, which I understand, JKL, is still being litigated in the courts, but that would have been their defense. So the reason why they got nailed with this $1.5 billion judgment is they wouldn't even buy one copy. It is still Anthropic's position, and it's OpenAI's position, that they should be able to train on all these books under fair use if they buy one copy. And that issue has not been resolved yet. Now, you should be able to see the total hypocrisy of their point of view. Actually, if you go back to Anthropic's blog post in February, where they defined this concept of industrial scale distillation attacks for the first time, they coined that expression. And this is, I worry that people in the government policymakers don't understand that this is all part of an Anthropic op. No one used the terms distillation and attack together until Anthropic wrote that blog post. Distillation was simply an industry standard practice. But then Anthropic coined this idea of industrial scale distillation attacks. In any event, if you go to that blog post, search for the words IP theft. It's not in there. Anthropic did not claim, even though they were trying to coin this new concept and brand this idea of industrial scale distillation attacks, they did not have the chutzpah to claim that it was IP theft. The cojones, the hypocrisy, the chutzpah to claim that it was IP theft. Why? Because they maintain that it is their right to train their models on all the world's output, even if the creators don't want them to.
IP for we, but not for thee.
Exactly. So Jake, I don't even want to get into whether you're right or not on the fair use question. Maybe you are right. I don't know. Okay. But my point is about the hypocrisy. And they themselves never claimed that this was IP theft by the Chinese companies. What they tried to claim was that it was a national security threat, because what would happen is these Chinese companies would distill off them, create their own models, and those models would not have guardrails. So they were making a different kind of argument. That argument though never found purchase with policymakers, because I think that they could see that look, guardrails are important, but it never really found purchase until Anthropic started claiming, oh, this is IP theft. But they have not been willing to make that argument publicly, because they know that it would poison all of their fair use lawsuits that are happening in Chamath. Like you mentioned, the New York Times is currently suing OpenAI for basically an industrial scale distillation attack. I mean, OpenAI went on the New York Times website, used scrapers, slurped up all of their information at a scale that no human could achieve, and then they used that as training data and reverse engineer the model weights effectively. So my point is that even Anthropic and OpenAI won't publicly admit that what China is doing is IP theft, because they are doing it themselves. It's totally hypocritical, and I don't think policymakers should be making arguments that these companies themselves won't make, because they know that they will lose all these court cases.
Freeberg, any thoughts here on, and obviously this is still being litigated, as we've discussed. It's 150 major cases. New York Times is one of them. Music
Let
industry.
me ask you a question, Jacob. Let's say you wrote.
You have a question for me?
Let's say your book. I don't know. Let's call it genuflecting the novel, the Great American Novel.
It could be Angel in 11 different languages.
So you write this book, okay,
HarperCollins,
and you opt to not submit it to AI because there's a restrict. You keep it closed. No one can read your book.
For Google search. It can't be on Google search.
No one can read your book. You're not letting anyone read your book. You want to pay for your book if you want to read it.
$10.
And someone pays $30 for Genuflect, the Great American Novel, and they read it, and then they write a review. And they publish their review on the internet. Now, on the internet, the review where it talks about your book and describes your book gets web crawled by an AI engine, and the AI engine learns from that, learns about your book, and now there's some commentary made about your book when someone asks a question about your book in the AI engine. Do you feel like your copyright was violated in that sense? So the book, the AI never ingested your book. It ingested metadata about your book, it ingested reviews about your book, it ingested third-party analysis about your book, all of which was on the open internet. And it didn't just copy that stuff, but it used it to learn about your book.
So you're saying these 1,500 reviews for Angel, How to Invest in Technology Stars, Timeless Advice from an Angel Investor Turned 100,000 into 100 million, these reviews would then be the basis of the AI. So I guess I would have to be okay, but this this eloquently brash blueprint for angel investing, that verified review. Yes, I would be fine with that 5-star review being in there.
Okay, so now you have no,
reviews.
but you now have no knowledge. You now have no knowledge of the process.
Absolutely.
Jacob, how many of those 1,498 reviews did you not write? 3?
Actually, I'll tell you the secret. When you guys actually get asked to write a book, or any of you have the capability of completing a book.
Yeah, because I'm 97 years old, living in the 19th century.
What AI agent did you use? What bot did you use to post that?
2017.
Now we know where he pointed that stupid open source AI slop cannon that he's built.
Yes, I verified the purchase too. Freeberg, you make a great point. There it is, Genuflect, Great American Novel, practical wisdom for mastering ambition, building resilience, and winning at life, work, and innovation.
Master virtue signaling.
Absolutely. Master virtue signaling.
Incredible.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. But JCal, I mean, this is my point. Knowledge can't be contained, it's diffuse. And so the form of copyright is very clear. The case law on copyright is very clear. I cannot lift text out of your book, reprint it, and claim it as my own. That is a violation of copyright. But my reading of your book, my reading of the reviews of your book, the diffusion of the knowledge that arises from your book, that is ultimately going to lead to some abstract transformation of knowledge into a new output that someone might read. And I think it is very unlikely that we will find ourselves in a place where the idea that knowledge transferred digitally, processed digitally, and turned into other content is going to end up violating copyright.
I understand your position. There are workarounds. Obviously, we've always had cliff notes, right? So if a book became good enough, somebody could write the cliff notes of it. You can't stop that. There's a 4-part test for this. We've talked about this for 3 years here on the pod. what I'd say is American companies should take 10% of their revenue if they're building these models and do splashy cashy and do settlements, and that's exactly what's happening. If you're a copyright owner, you should study what the music industry does. They are rabid dogs, and they will fight tooth and nail and keep you in the courts until you submit and make a settlement and agree that you're licensing it, and then that gives them that case law and that settlement to go to the next person and the next person and the next person, and that's why they've been able to successfully defend it. And then if you're competing with me, that becomes the issue. So if you said, hey, what's this book about, and what do people think about it, what are the best parts of it, and that comes from the reviews, okay, fine, fair enough. The problem is, and I'll share with you, there's been some other lawsuits here that are making their way through courts. What's going to be the problem is the application level layer that you talked about, Chamath. As they go into the application layer and they use this, there's a big court case here. Obviously, you know about some of these, but there are now other cases. There are music cases. There's a New York Times case. The one that's kind of interesting is Thomson Reuters versus Ross. This is a final judgment on AI training copyright. There's a company called Westlaw. They're like LexisNexis, and people have been trying to claim that they can train on the outputs of something like Westlaw. And when you're in the same business as me, that has a special place in copyright law, because you're infringing on my ability to use my copyright. And your argument, I think, Freeberg holds up that it wouldn't be, it wouldn't stop somebody from buying the book. But the second you are actually competing with me like directly, that's when these things have problems. And that's why I think the music industry is going to win, and some other places are going to win. But listen, this is brand new territory. These lawsuits are brand new territory, and IP law does not actually have the nuance yet. So we're going to, as a society, have to make a decision here on what is fair. I suggest, just like the self-regulatory group that we talked about last week, all the AI companies should get together, take 10% of your revenue, put it in a pool, and keep paying the people and getting permission from them, so you can get updates on the content, so you get the next book, so you get the next New York Times story, the next Reuters story.
10% is not going to satisfy the rabid dogs. Let me tell you, they're going to go for 100%. Now, Jake, here's the question I want to ask you.
Yes,
given that the fair use doctrine is not a decided matter yet, given that Anthropic and OpenAI are embroiled in huge lawsuits against very well-financed content creators and those communities, and the outcome is indeterminate, and there's millions of dollars at stake, maybe even their entire product at stake, do you think that they have potentially made a fatal mistake by arguing that distilling content against the wishes of its creator is IP theft? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, is this potentially a fatal mistake? See, well, here's what they could have done.
You would bring that to the Supreme Court and you say, hey, listen,
but here's what they could have done. What Anthropic could have done is they could have said, listen, we have these Chinese companies are creating fake accounts, and they're using proxies to basically use our product in violation of our terms of service. Now, using those model outputs is not IP theft because it's fair use. However, it's a deceptive business practice for these guys to lie about who they are when they set up accounts at scale. And so they're engaged in a deceptive business practice. And we're going to do everything we can to stop that, but we'd like the government's help in stopping that too. However, we're not saying anything about IP theft.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be the more nuanced approach?
Of course.
Because I think that they're on the verge of being hoisted on their own petard here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the kids call it a cell phone, right? Like, you basically, it's just a classic cell phone. And, in most of these cases, settlements happen. So again, if you just look at the music industry, the newspapers, the magazines, and some of those folks and book authors, they tend to be very meat. There's a new trend happening now, Freeberg. A lot of content providers are saying to Google, take us out of the index, because Google has one bot, and that bot does the Google crawl, and that bot also does the AI crawl. And what the industry is saying is, hey, split that up. I want to be in Google, but I don't want to be indexed in AI. So people are now saying, hey, we'll take you out of the index, which Rupert Murdoch got right. If all the newspapers said collectively, do not index us, Google, we're no indexed, that would have made Google come to the table and give them a royalty and give them some money for being indexed.
They did that, dude. There was a deal that happened, but it didn't go the way you're describing.
Well, because they didn't have a united front. Now I think
no, these guys wanted Google's user base, so they ended up doing a deal where they had this paywall exclusion rule, where you could show a certain number of free articles. There was a whole negotiated settlement.
I'm talking even long before that first index happened. But here's, I think we are on the cusp of some type of a settlement getting done here, and I think that would be good for America to take a leadership position in that, because you do want to keep getting that. But all of these content companies, they should be meeting with each other, the music industry, the New York Times, all of them, to stop their content from getting used without their permission and from competing with them. That's my.
You only get a settlement when both sides can agree, and it seems to me that if you're one of these content creator lobbies and you see that Anthropic has just told the government that training on a creator's output without their consent is IP theft,
Yeah,
they have
your
now
side.
they have now basically confessed to their entire product being stolen. And it seems to me that why would the content creators now assert that they're entitled to own 100% of Anthropic's revenue? It seems to me that this could be a bridge too far. That they're so good at regulatory capture. They're so good at making these arguments and getting the government involved to create new regulations to protect them. But I wonder if this was just a little bit too cute. And again, if they just positioned it slightly differently, if they said, look, these Chinese companies are creating fake accounts, that's a deceptive business practice. We're not saying this is IP theft, right? But instead, they said IP theft, and now the whole startup community is activated. You saw that, Gary Tan and 200 startups wrote that letter. Why? Because they know that if this IP theft thing sticks, then all derivative works of Chinese models are tainted now too. So that means the whole startup ecosystem is now at risk.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if these guys have just gone, it's just all a bridge too far.
I mean,
And
if you go to Washington,
pulling it back.
yeah, and you lay down with the dogs, don't be surprised if you wake up with the fleas. They decided to engage in this, so they may have poked the tiger. I think it's pretty accurate. Oh, by the way, the publishing schedule for 2027 was released. We have some new books coming. You heard mine, Genuflecting, coming to you now. Ferrari on My Wrist: How to Win at Life and Afford a $250,000 watch from David Sachs.
Oh my God.
This is pre-Ozempic Sachs. We're going to need to get that done. Here it is: The Fight to Save America: Destroying Socialism, Shrinking the Debt, and Winning AI.
I like that book.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. I think
That's a good book.
By the
I
way,
love that.
this is our new all-in. Here it is: Shema Polyamatia, A Sexual Italian Summer. Ooh, it's a romance novel. This is the only person who decided to do fiction. This is fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. Shema.
I got Tremont's nonfiction novel also.
Oh, you have his nonfiction as well. Here it is. Here it is. Enterprise Sales. Shema, Dystopia. How my software startup built my Italian summer. It's great. It's great. Oh my God. Wow, that's coming from the all-in.
The IT guy in Milan.
Absolutely. This is coming from all-in books. It's our new publishing label coming in 2027. We'll also have the Brad Gerstner, Bill Gurley, Elon Musk, and other titles coming. So we'll have those on future episodes. More titles coming. Breaking topic here: Google and Tesla shared their results today. Had a lot of talk about capital expenditures. Google blew the doors off of their.
Blew the doors off. I mean,
It was insane.
Outrageous.
And, outrageous, and they were down like 7 to 10%. Google Cloud growing
because of their cash flow numbers.
2% year over year. Yeah, because of cash flow numbers. And now is on $100 billion run rate. That's but one business. Tesla's CapEx surged 142% year over year, and they expect 25 billion CapEx. Google's CapEx forecast from 195 to 205 billion this year. So next year will be even higher. Tesla down 14, Google down 7%. RJ, who knows? But both reported negative free cash flow. In other words, the amount of cash in the bank went down instead of up. And for Google, that was the first time ever. IPO update: SpaceX down 38% from its day one closing price, now trading 1.5 trillion. A lot of pressure on the stock. We'll talk about that as well. Obviously, the public got 2 trillion, got a big pop, Elon pop, and it could be more down pressure, or it could have found a bottom. You never know with these things. This is unprecedented territory. We've never had an IPO this big, with some lockups. Here's the chart. A bunch of lockups are happening at different stage intervals. So let's, Shema, talk a little bit. Here's your SpaceX. I guess CapEx, Shema, is being built out, obviously, for AI. And there is the case of OpenAI spending on CapEx in order to provide their service. But then there's also Google, which is making these capital investments to resell it as part of Google Cloud product. And then on the other side, they're using it for their own, obviously, infrastructure. And their business is just growing like crazy, whether it's YouTube, Google Cloud, or even search is still growing. So I looked at this and I said, well, this seems like a really good use of capital. Instead of just giving dividends, like building out this infrastructure, to me sounds like an investment in the future. It seems like a buy signal to me, but the market is obviously disappointed. Why is the market disappointed? Is it a buy signal for you? Does it make you more excited about management and what Sundar and Sergey are doing over there, or does it make you concerned?
I'm more bullish. Do you know what Google's 25-year average return on invested capital has been since going public? Take a guess.
17%.
No.
21%.
No.
23%.
No.
29%.
Price is right.
35%.
32%.
Jesus.
Okay. This is when you are a machine and a group of people and a business model that compounds money at 32% over a 20-year average. You give these guys the benefit of the doubt. These are not people that are flying fast and loose. They are methodically investing in their edge. And this is, I go back to the first conversation. They are going to get massively rewarded. You know, there was a lot of Twitter chatter or X chatter about Gemini usage and was it real or was it not real? And is their revenue growth really coming from AI-enabled workflows? It's all malarkey. Google has an incredible search experience. They seem to be navigating this transition to use AI. It's been done very well. They have an incredible cloud business, and they have an incredible silicon business. The best thing that can happen to them is 500 different models proliferate, and they support all of them. Because they will make so much money at the silicon layer, they'll make so much money as the cloud provider, and they'll find a bunch of apps, including YouTube and other things, to make money from because you use the AI to target ads better or to help make better content, et cetera, et cetera.
Fragmentation's good for them.
Oh, it's great for them. It's a compounding machine. I think the reaction, by the way, is because, Jason, I saw a tweet from Ryan Peterson. I don't know if it's true, but he said Google will be spending 20% of this year's military budget in CapEx. So maybe what people are reacting to is just the scale of the investment they haven't seen. They're free cash flow negative for the first time since going public. So that obviously takes people by surprise. But they're in a huge investment period, and I think it'll pay off dividends, even if they, as Freeberg's first guess was.
Hey, what's on your mind?
Tell me about the Casey Jones Distillery in Kentucky.
One sec. Checking now. All right, so Casey Jones Distillery in Western Kentucky is part of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. The distillery celebrates the moonshining still legacy. It's smaller and more personal than the big bourbon tours, but folks like the behind-the-scenes vibe, the tastings, and the old square pot still design.
What brands are they known for selling?
Checking now. They're mostly known for their own Casey Jones branded spirits. Things like Casey's Cut Moonshine, Total Eclipse Bourbon, Barrel Cut Expressions, and some flavored moonshines as well. They've also recently released their Revere bourbon line, a premium small batch and single barrel series tied to the US 250th anniversary, but the bourbon and moonshine are still the crowd favorites.
I just saw a sign that said the Casey Jones Distillery, so I was like, oh, that's interesting, never heard of that.
So even if they did half the number, they'd still be over.
Still young, yeah. I mean, Freeberg, if you look at Apple, I think they bought back half their stock. They've given hundreds of billions of dollars back in profits. And gosh, it seems to me, giving all this money back, buying back their shares, or giving tons of dividends. I think it's great that the tech companies are now saying, wait, we have something to invest in. The next big thing is on-demand intelligence, and there is no upper bound for intelligence. Or I don't think anybody, I certainly don't see, any time in the next 10 years, people saying, I got enough intelligence. I've solved all the problems in the world. I think they're going to keep running it. So what do you think about this incredible change in, basically $100 billion, $200 billion, depending on the company, just going into capital? This seems like a savvy, right? This is like, all of us think this is a good thing.
I mean, if you want to bet against Google's deployment of capital into infrastructure because you'd rather have them give you cash for your shares today, you shouldn't own the stock. Someone else will buy it. I think Google wins in a lot of different ways. There's just so much to Google. There's the consumer business, which is a lot of stuff. There's also YouTube. There's also GCP. There's also this portfolio of other bets, which, by the way, includes 10% of SpaceX and a good chunk of Anthropic that they own, and so on.
Way worth $100.
I think they just took $100 billion write-up on Anthropic in the quarter. So they had $100 billion market on Anthropic just in one quarter, and they own a piece of all these businesses. So there's a lot to like about Google. But just on GCP, I think that there's probably no better suited enterprise layer than GCP to take advantage of capturing value with AI for that enterprise setting. I think you're just so much better because you have so much of your enterprise data, all your email, your drive, a lot of information that you would want to have AI have knowledge of and have AI have access to improve workplace productivity. And then they're model agnostic. I mean, you can run any model you want, and you can run any workflow you want, and you don't have to be tied in. A lot of other cloud service providers, cloud SaaS, they're kind of model dependent to run in a certain way. With Google, you can better tune your system how you want to tune it. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is they have the lowest cost infrastructure in the world to run other people's models as a service, like Elon did with Grok, with the
Elon Web Services seems to be doing pretty great.
And look at the return Elon's making on the Colossus install. So I think if Google, in the worst case scenario, none of their application layer stuff works, none of their network effects work, and they don't have any good models, they're still going to have the world's best infrastructure they can print cash on for years if you believe in AI. So if you want to bet my AI, I think the best public market stock to own is Google. And by the way, you also get YouTube, you also get the consumer, you also get everything else. The multiple is kind of ridiculous right now.
We talked about this on the previous issue. I think, Shmonth, you and I were talking about what Apple should do next. And I think we both came to the conclusion, so why not have Apple Web Services? They have such great relationships with developers.
That's just rough.
Deep relationship.
It's not so easy because you have to build a cloud service provider. You have to build some critical infrastructure. It's taken Amazon, call it 17 years to perfect it. It's taken Google, call it 12 or 13 years to mostly catch up. But the minute that you sign up to be a web provider, Jason, and a cloud service provider, what you're really signing up for is 5 nines of reliability and uptime. And that is just extremely expensive. Getting to the first 2 nines, 99% uptime, if you're hosting something for a pharma company or a defense company, you could probably do it for relatively cheaply. Getting to the third 9, 99.9 probably costs you in the billions. Getting to the fourth 9 costs tens of billions, but getting to that fifth 9 costs hundreds of millions. And that takes a real investment and real technical skill. And there's only 3 games in town.
Yeah, I think Tim Cook's not the guy to do it, but this new CEO might be, since he's an engineer. They've returned the last decade.
They could buy
approximately $900 billion, 755 in buybacks, and 140 billion SaaS. in dividends. Just let that sink in. $900 billion. If they had invested that in Anthropic and SpaceX and other things, they just could have found some good uses for that money. Zach, any thoughts here on what's happening?
Yeah, I know I'm camping in the fast lane, but there's nobody coming up on me for a while, and it's smoother.
Yeah, so on society level, but I just think Apple could have been more ambitious if they just spent half that money instead of on buybacks and dividends on creating new products.
Now it's not as bad. No, it's still worse.
I think it was very much a do no harm capital allocation strategy which worked for the stock. It's going to be really interesting to see if John Turner's flipped the script.
I think he does. I think he's going to be like engineer guy. Yeah. All right. Enough on the markets. The market's going to do what markets do. We will talk about Iran and other stuff like that when there's more news for venture capitalists to comment on. Right now, it's just on. I know. I don't think there's much for us to say on it. I do think there's a lot for us to say in Socialism Corner, our new reoccurring theme here, Freeberg. Every week there's more news coming out of Socialism Corner.
Why don't you show my video on socialism going back 6 years?
Let's answer the Freeberg socialism rants earlier this month. New York City dictator / mayor, so Ron Mamdani, don't misuse that shit. The rental ripoff hearing in New York City's Tenement Museum. After the hearing, he introduced a rental ripoff report passed bars landlords from charging applications for credit checks. It's going to let landlords require a credit check for 40x rent, income standard, but not both.
Getting a little more rainy.
And unions and more. He's obviously frozen the rent for a year at the hearing. Activists were COVID masks referred to evictions as the violence eviction. Here's your 20-second clip.
The Mamdani administration is informed us so that we no longer tolerate the violence of evictions as a matter of business.
What were we just watching? Is that the do you remember the guy from Fat Albert who had the hat like that? Can we pull that guy up? Do you remember the guy from Fat Albert who had the hat? What's his name? Oh my God!
Is COVID still happening? I thought COVID was over.
No, she just got a booster.
That was like a super duper bounce. That was a super duper bounce. That just wasn't like a little drop. That was one of those big ones.
I mean, combined with the hat, it was that was pretty. There it is. I remember that guy from. What is going on?
Wait, we're gonna give Freeberg a chance to do a rant.
Yes.
I can do a rant off this.
No, let's give Freeberg his word. This is Freeberg Rare Meat. Freeberg.
In 1787, John Quincy Adams published a work called A Defense of the Constitution of the Government of the United States of America. In that work, he had a comment: the moment the idea is admitted into society that property is not as sacred as the laws of God, and that there is not a force of law and public justice to protect it, anarchy and tyranny commence. And then in 1791, he made the statement publicly: property must be secured or liberty cannot exist. In an essay series,
Can you unpack it and explain why he said that?
fundamental to the foundation of the United States of America was this idea of private property rights. Because if you think about where everyone that came to America was coming from, there were these tyrannical governments, monarchies or whatever, where some overlord or some cabal could decide at any point to take the things that you have. You had no private property rights as an individual. They could come in, they're like, that farm is my farm. You're actually a serf. I'm the Lord. That thing is my thing. You have a right to use it because I vest you that right to use it. I am the all-powerful. I am the tyrannical overseer of these lands. And it was that stasis that drove so many to come to the United States and say, we want a place where individuals, one person, can say, I own something and no one can take it from me. Private property rights are the foundations of liberty in America. This idea that you can then claim acts of violence, that you can then claim circumstances of extraordinary extravagant wealth, and say to that individual, I now have a right, the government now has a right to take your private property, ultimately leads to this tyrannical form. And it starts out as being anarchic because, and remember, anarchy is a temporary state. It's always in between one state and another. all anarchies end up in tyranny. Groups of people fight each other. They're all stealing from each other. Everyone just goes and takes and gets what they want. And eventually people coalesce. They form groups. And those groups become the more powerful groups. And the powerful groups end up winning. And they become the tyranny over the mass. And that is why all anarchies eventually evolve into tyranny. So anarchy and tyranny are one and the same. And fundamentally, what's going on with these socialist principles is that we are taking your private property and you no longer have rights on your private property. Whether you are a landlord or whether you are a wealthy person that we've been deemed to have too much wealth, we now will have the rights to come in and take your property and control it and take it from you. And it always starts with this framing of moralistic intent. We are good, you are bad for the following reasons. You have committed violence against the people that live in your building. You have taken too much wealth and none of us have wealth. We have a right to go and take your wealth from you. It has always started from this point of view that you are bad. So the first framing is that the private property owner is evil, and that the private property owner has committed an act of injustice against those who don't have the private property. And
yes, I will be stopping at Buc-ee's in 244 miles, which is right in Crossville, which is roughly where I'm going after I'm done in Nashville.
that is the justification for taking away their private property rights. And it is the beginning of this transition towards a tyrannical system, which will ultimately be what I call this kind of great American Politburo, or whatever socialist framework gets set up by the...
I want to add a layer to this idea. You know, these DSA socialists say that evictions are violence, and they basically want to stop them. I think Freeberg's making the point that this deprives the landlord of their property, and that's true, but I think we also have to stop and consider what this means for the other residents in these buildings. I mean, first of all, if the landlords aren't making income because they got a bunch of delinquent tenants in the building, they can't now pay for upkeep and maintenance, and so these buildings become more dilapidated, and that affects the other tenants. But also, I have a friend who manages these apartment buildings, and he makes the point that it's often these squatters, these delinquent tenants who should be evicted but can't, who make the worst neighbors. So when you think about the problems in an apartment complex where you've got people creating noise at night, maybe they're playing loud music, or you've got people punching walls, or there's disgusting smells coming from apartments, or they're misusing common areas, or you have drunken and disorderly behavior. I mean, this is all the kind of stuff that happens in these rent-controlled apartment buildings. And you have to remember that there's long-standing residents, a lot of old people, who can't afford to find a new place. They depend on the rent control. And when you can't evict that unruly tenant, yes, it affects the landlord, but it affects the neighbors even more, because now they're stuck in a downward spiral. And I think this is a problem with the progressive mindset across the board, is that these DSA types are always these like highly educated and often affluent types, and they can afford to have luxury beliefs about public spaces because they never use them, right? They don't use the bus or the subway as parks. And so when they get taken over by homeless drug addicts, they always defend the addicts as opposed to the middle class and
an easy thing to do if you don't live in the Tenderloin.
Right, exactly. And it falls the hardest on the working class because they actually need these amenities. They need the parks for their kids, or they need to use the subway, right? And it's really a problem when you get people shooting up or doing drugs or, you know, defecating in a subway.
Or you're walking your kids to school. Like the person in Marin County who has these luxury beliefs, or on the Upper East Side, they just don't, they're abstracted from this. They don't need to deal with it.
Right.
We talked about this
and it's no different with these rent-controlled apartments. I think that's the important point here, is that if over a period of several years you can't evict anyone, no matter how problematic they are, you effectively turn these apartment buildings into the equivalent of housing projects, and you know that really affects decent people of modest income who have nowhere else to go, and their quality of life suffers. And look, you know, the private equity wives in their gated communities will still feel good about themselves because, you know, they prevented these evictions, but it's the people in the building who are going to suffer the most.
And at least, and they're, Chamath, these people are not just thinking from first principles. If you want to solve the housing problem, anybody with any basic understanding of economics would just say, we'll increase the supply and the price will go down. And it actually doesn't matter which supply you add. It doesn't matter if it's luxury units or multifamily or single family. As long as there's more housing and there's transportation to get to it, to move people in and out, it'll be fine. As I'm sitting here in Tokyo, like they figured this out a long time ago, just build up and put more units in. They figured it out in Texas, Florida, Nevada. The only people who can't seem to figure this out, is like New York, LA, and San Francisco. Just happens to be liberal elite concepts, and it's not hard on a conceptual basis. Just allow people to build some more units and different types of units, and then the price will go down. Chamath, any thoughts here?
The data from Austin says once you relax the permitting constraint, we'll get more units built, and for every unit that comes online, it literally drives down the rent. So if you want low rent, you need to have more units. If you want more units, you need to permit more aggressively. That's it. So it's just a decision. The same political will that it would take Mamdani to pass this law, he could actually pass some permitting reform and it would do a lot more good. The thing on private property, the reason I asked Freeberg to explain it is I really believe what he's saying is really important. It's like funny to me, this idea that at the limit, let's just say you're driving your car and all of a sudden somebody jumps in it and they're like, well, now I'm here, you can't kick me out. Or, you go outside, you leave your door open to go get a FedEx package or Amazon box and somebody runs in and sits on your couch and now all of a sudden you can't kick them out. And it sounds so ludicrously dumb. If you force the owners of physical property to not be able to credit check and differentiate who they rent their apartments to, what's going to happen is rents will go up even more. So I suspect that what they should do is they should pass this law and they should observe what the outcome is. And then you can do a pretty scientific A/B comparison between New York City and Austin, and you'll know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the problem is the socialists never learn. I mean, we already
When
have
got
tons
rid
of
of rent
studies.
control, in Argentina, rents went down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem, Chamath, is that, look, if the socialists ever learned from their failed experiments, you wouldn't have Chicago, It's just, we don't need New York to go down the tubes to know this isn't going to work because it's happened in so many other places already.
Right.
But somehow it just never seems to stop.
They never seem to learn, so they should run the experiment and learn. I mean, what's crazy is you'll be learning and it'll be a failure on the grandest stage possible. You're talking about the biggest, most complicated
New York City, yeah.
My God.
I mean, and Sachs, what happens if a landlord cannot raise the rent reasonably? Well, they have no incentive to invest in new units. They have no incentive to upgrade new units. And there's this trap in New York City specifically. They have made this regulations for apartments such that if you do a renovation, it has to hit certain codes. And there are a ton of codes. Okay, so that means it's incredibly expensive. So now you have ghost apartments.
Yes, now the housing stock becomes dilapidated. And look, they're doing something even worse now, I think, which is they are banning landlords from doing credit and background checks on potential tenants. And they say that you can't look at their income. So you can't vet whether they can actually pay the rent. So they're
Who wants
banning
to be a
eviction.
landlord? No more
Right.
landlords.
So they're banning eviction. And then they're preventing you from doing the diligence to see if this is even a tenant who will pay the rent.
We've lost the script.
So what are you supposed to do?
The interesting question is, if you were forced to live under these rules as a landlord, what would you do? And the obvious answer is you'd start rent 3 or 4 times higher, and you force people to sign up to a multi-month prepayment, and you'd slowly ease those conditions until you had found a market clearing price. That's the only way to do it. So rents will not go down. Rents will go up. So run the experiment and let's just observe what happens.
That's a really good point, Chamath. Like, let's say that, X% of tenants are going to become delinquent, right? Because, and by the way, what's their incentive to pay when they know they can't be evicted?
Zero.
So, actually, a pretty significant percentage of people could just decide, I'm going to make rent optional. And so now the landlord has to absorb those losses.
Exactly.
And that means they have to pass on a higher rent to everybody else.
You're going to set the rent 3x higher and you're going to slowly meander it down. And like I said, you're going to have to wire in the first full year of rent.
Well, and
good luck. How is that more affordable?
It's even worse, Sachs. Not only do the landlords keep the dilapidated apartments, in some cases, it's better for them to just leave apartments, housing stock, empty. So somebody leaves, they are forced to renovate it, and it costs more, hundreds of thousands in renovations, So they say, you know what? I'll just leave it empty for now. And so you have 50,000 ghost apartments, according to reports, in New York City.
Well,
The
that's
ghost
an
apartment-
Airbnb problem. That's like a.
No, they banned Airbnb in New York. You cannot get an Airbnb.
Oh, really?
Yes. So now it's
That's
like,
really interesting. Yeah, look, if you're a landlord, okay. I mean, I guess one thing you could do is just sell and go to another jurisdiction. Another thing you could do is just wait this out,
Yeah.
because it's not profitable to run an apartment building. You can't raise your rents. You can't evict people. You can't diligence the tenants. So maybe you just leave the building empty and you wait this out. I mean, that's assuming you don't have too much debt on it, right?
more
Everybody
ghost
listen.
apartments. Yeah.
And then you have ghost apartments.
Yeah. All right. Listen, you've been thinking about coming to the All In Summit. This is your year. Speakers are world class.
I got an hour to go. Do I put another podcast on, or just kind of chill? I've got one that's only an hour, but yeah. Take the microphone off for now. Put it away. Where's the rest area? Just crossing into Tennessee. ETA 10:35. 42 minutes to go. Which is only 31 miles. OBS is disconnecting a lot. The internet must be dropping out with all the cloud cover. Fuck you, asshole. All right, we're in Nashville. I got like 7 minutes to my destination. I am probably going to go ahead and kill this stream. As soon as I get a free moment to reach over. So I need to get off at the next exit. Not this one, not 212. I got to get off at 213. A to stay on 24 East.